Okay, good evening, everybody. It's not happy hour. Good evening, everybody. I call the May 28th, 2024 meeting of the DuPage County Board to order. I invite everyone to stand and join in the Pledge of Allegiance. Member to start, will you please lead the pledge? United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay, I'll ask everybody to remain standing, and I now invite Deacon Dan DeFino from St. Isidore's Parish of Bloomingdale to lead us in the invocation.
Thank you. Let us place ourselves all in the presence of God. Heavenly Father, we thank you for bringing us together this evening as we prepare to meet on necessary items to discuss in our county and communities. We ask you to allow your Spirit to move among us so that together we may have an impactful and fruitful meeting driven by our common goal of good for all that we serve. On the heels of Memorial Day, we are grateful to all those who have gone before us with strong ideals and dedication to serving and protecting our great country. We are different, for you made us to be so, but let us see past our obvious differences and magnify the commonalities that bring us together, and use those common traits of fairness, justice, and prosperity to better those we serve. And we hear in sacred scripture from 1 Corinthians, there are different kinds of gifts, but the same Spirit. There are different kinds of service, but the same Lord. There are different kinds of working, but the same God works all of them in all men. Now to each one of the manifestation of the Spirit is given for the common good. We hear from St. Paul that we are all blessed with different gifts and for different reasons, but all made for good. Let us understand our part in all that we do. Let us not be discouraged if all are not in agreement with our views, for we are all made up of different experiences and circumstances that have made us who we are, and we should be grateful for this. Tonight, let us use our different gifts from God to carry into this time our compassion, understanding, patience, and wisdom to make the best decisions for all, and keep an open mind to know that through transparency, truth, and discernment, we may become better citizens and members of this group to be led by the virtues of all that is good. And we offer this prayer of a loving and peaceful community. Lord, you have commanded us to love our neighbors as ourselves. Help us to do that in our community and throughout our county. Help us to be attentive to the many circumstances each citizen faces, and let us be guided by your Spirit to overcome the obstacles for a better society for us all. Help us to love others no matter what their race, gender, religious beliefs, or other differences. Help us to receive their love as well. Loving God, shower your blessings on all and bring peace and harmony, prosperity and hope to all citizens. May you bless our leaders with wisdom and insight so that they may perform their duties in the best way possible. And may Almighty God bless all of you present here this evening. In the name of the Father, and of the Son, and of the Holy Spirit. Amen.
Okay,
God bless.
Please be seated, and Mr. Deputy Clerk, please take the roll.
Cahill.
Here.
Chaplin.
Here.
Childress.
Yes.
Covert.
Here.
Desart.
Here.
Eckhoff. Evans.
Here.
Galassi. Here. Garcia.
Here.
Guston. Here. Krajewski. Here. LaPlante. Ozog. Here. Rutledge. Here. Schwarzy. Here. Tornatori. Yu.
Here.
And Zay.
Okay. Today, I would like to invite members Yu and Childress, and then also Jim Persick to the podium. Today, members Yina Yu and Michael Childress have asked for a proclamation in honor of Race Amity Day. That will be celebrated the second Sunday in June, which is June 9th. Jim Persick of Lombard serves as the chair of the statewide Citizens for Race Amity Day movement. Allow me to read the proclamation, and then I'll ask our guests to say a few words. Whereas DuPage County supports the seal of the United States of America, which bears the inscription E pluribus unum, which translates from Latin as out of many, one. And whereas the people of DuPage County are our greatest asset, and whereas DuPage County is comprised of multicultural, multi-ethnic, and multiracial residents, and whereas according to the latest estimates from the U.S. Census Bureau, more than 37% of DuPage County residents, or more than 340,000 people, identify as Black, Hispanic, Latino, Asian American, Native American, or multiracial. And whereas friendship, collegiality, civility, respect, and kindness are commonly shared ideas of these collective residents of our county. Whereas the Towards E Pluribus Unum initiative of the National Center for Race Amity has invited communities across the United States of America to join in introspection and reflection on the beauty and richness of diverse peoples of this great nation, while reaching out with a spirit of amity toward one another annually on the second Sunday in June, designated as Race Amity Day. Now, therefore, be it resolved that I, Deborah A. Conroy, Chair of the DuPage County Board, and members of the County Board do hereby proclaim June 9th, 2024, to celebrate in DuPage County as Race Amity Day, and urge all residents of the county to take cognizance of this event and participate fittingly in its observance. Motion, second. All in favor? Okay, enacted this 28th day of May 2024 in Wheaton, Illinois.
Thank you, Chair Conroy and fellow members of the board. As you know, the mission of our county government has been to provide services that make DuPage a desirable place to live, to work, and to raise families. And considering that our county, as you just heard, is comprised of more than 340,000 people who identify as a person of color or mixed race, I believe that we have to recognize the importance of not only celebrating diversity, but promoting interracial friendship and cross-cultural understanding. Building a relationship with someone who comes from a different culture, background, or ethnicity than your own is always a good thing. It has positive impact. It builds lasting personal, social, and systemic change. So I think this proclamation runs in line with our mission statement and the vision we see for DuPage County. Thank you to Jim Persick and to Betty Lawrence Water and the members of Illinois Citizens for Race Amity Day for seeking this proclamation from County Board. Jim.
Chair Conroy, Vice Chair Childress, Ms. Yu, and members of the County Board, on behalf of the Illinois Citizens for Race Amity and the organizations that work together with us towards Race Amity, I want to thank you for once again proclaiming Race Amity Day in 2024. The Race Amity movement focuses on bringing people together across racial, cultural, language, gender, age, and other differences to communicate with each other and to learn from each other. When this happens, friendships will develop that will strengthen our communities and make them more inclusive. So we are pleased that the DuPage County Board recognized the importance of our efforts, and again, thank you for making this proclamation. Betty?
Good evening, everyone. In a healthy community, unity is strength. Where there is teamwork and collaboration, wonderful things can be achieved, even through simple conversations. Thank you, DuPage County Board, for just your vision, having the vision, and for your support in what we do, and in proclaiming June 9th as Race Amity Day in DuPage County. Thank you.
Okay, now I'd like to invite Member Schwarzy and Kristen Sheffield to the podium. The month of May is designated as Community Action Month. During this time, we recognize the impact of community action agencies in assisting low-income families and helping them achieve economic stability. This year marks a special anniversary, the 60th anniversary of our Economic Opportunity Act, which authorized the formation of a community action agency. Human Services Chairman Greg Schwarzy and Karen Sheffield join us for the proclamation. Kristen serves as the chair of Community Services Block Grant Advisory Committee for DuPage County, and in her other life, she is executive director of the Parents Alliance Employment Project. So she knows a great deal about changing people's lives. I'll read the proclamation and then I'll ask our guests to say a few words. Whereas 2024 marks the 60th anniversary of the Economic Opportunity Act, which authorized the formation of community action agencies. And whereas May is celebrated annually as National Community Action Month to highlight these agencies that provide financial and technical assistance to the public. And whereas DuPage County Community Services is DuPage County's community action agency, hosting programs such as the Community Services Block Grant Program, Low-Income Home Energy Assistance Program, and the Weatherization Program. And whereas the strategies and innovative solutions of DuPage County's Community Action Program evolve as the needs of the individuals, families, and communities change. Whereas community action through DuPage County and its partner agencies has helped thousands of area families with stable housing, food, affordable heat and energy, financial empowerment, better jobs, and disaster assistance. And whereas over the last decade, DuPage County's community action programs have connected more than 300,000 residents with services and support that improve their lives. And whereas community action agencies and DuPage County Community Services have made essential contributions to build strong, resilient communities, create opportunities for our residents to thrive, and inspire a spirit of hope. Now, therefore, be it resolved that I, Deborah A. Conroy, Chair of the DuPage County Board and members of the DuPage County Board, do hereby proclaim May 2024 as Community Action Month, and we recognize and applaud DuPage County Community Services for their hard work and dedication to our residents. Second, all in favor? Aye. Okay. Enacted this 28th day of May 2024 in Wheaton, Illinois.
Thank you, Chair Conroy, for recognizing May as Community Action Month. It is truly an honor to be here as we celebrate 60 years of this. It's an honor to accept this proclamation on behalf of the advisory board and all of our community partners that we provide services through. And also, we couldn't do it without all of you. I see a lot of familiar faces from the county board that come to our meetings. So thank you. You all should be very proud of all of the services that are provided through community action that provide supports to all of the residents in DuPage County. So thank you very much.
On the matter of public comment, according to our county board rules, members of the public shall be afforded time to address the board. Individual remarks shall not exceed 3 minutes in length, nor shall the total time provided for all remarks exceed 30 minutes. Our state's attorney will call the names of those who have signed up to speak.
Larry Pitts.
Thank you. My name is Larry Pitts. My wife and I have been residents of DuPage County for 44 years.
I have a bachelor's degree in music education, a master's degree in vocal performance. My wife has a bachelor's degree in music history and has played piano for over 50 years. I was a member of the Chicago Symphony Chorus for 32 years. My wife was a musical therapist in area nursing homes. We're season ticket holders to the Chicago Symphony, Chicago A Cappella, and are members of the Art Institute and the DuPage Art League. Music and arts are a big part of our lives. It's also been a part of the lives of our 5 children. While we couldn't take them to Orchestra Hall for a concert when they were young, we could take them to Ravinia, and we could sit on the lawn and have a nice picnic dinner together and listen to some great music. We currently attend over 20 concerts a year, most at Orchestra Hall. We also attend Wentz Hall in Naperville, Wheaton College, and the MAC. We would attend more concerts if we had an arts venue here in Wheaton. You can see where this is going. The CSO has performed in the summer at Cantigny and also at the Morton Arboretum, but the locations aren't ideal for large crowds and conditions are not suitable for orchestras or large musical groups. We need a Ravinia in DuPage, and the fairgrounds location is ideal. Have a permanent venue for orchestras, bands, and other musical groups will be beneficial for DuPage and its residents. A permanent location for art shows and expositions would also be good for DuPage. I think the feasibility study being implemented by Choose DuPage will show the need for the facility. I'm glad to hear that the first phase has shown the potential for a new arts center in DuPage. I urge board members to support the feasibility study when it comes up for a vote and support the arts in DuPage County, from your children's grade school music programs to the guy playing guitar and singing in a bar, or open mic programs at the libraries. Encourage participation, and we all will be better for it. Thank you.
Maria Sinkuel.
Hi, my name is Maria Sinkiel, Dr. Maria Sinkiel. I'm a school social worker by trade, an Addison resident, got my doctorate at Aurora University. I appreciate the evening meeting and the opportunity to make a public comment. I'm here tonight because some troubling information I read in the Daily Herald article titled "Suit DuPage Deputy Says She Was Sexually Harassed at Work, Faced Retaliation." As a social worker and concerned citizen who supports law enforcement, my husband's also law enforcement, this article compels me to speak out for a woman in law enforcement. Speaking out as a woman carries a heavy burden, as highlighted by the following fact. The U.S. Equal Opportunity Commissions reported that women filed 78.2% of the 27,291 sexual harassment charges received between fiscal year 2018 and 2021. Charges alleging sexual harassment and retaliation are often linked. Women often do not come forward with their experiences out of fear of retaliation, which is very valid and well-founded. The fear of retaliation includes negative consequences, such as being discharged from work. Workplace sexual harassment is often perpetrated by an authority figure within the workplace, with senior employees accounting for 72% of the cases. Harassment in any form can contribute to a toxic work environment, fostering offensive language, unwelcome advances, sexual innuendos, intimidation, insults, offensive jokes, or physical threats. This can interfere with an employee's ability to do their job effectively. As a community, we need transparency. These issues are troubling to read about. Additionally, I learned that the DuPage County Sheriff, James Mendrick, held a fundraising event where a portion of the proceeds were advertised to be used to address staffing shortages. Clearly, this is at odds with campaign finance laws. This, coupled with the sexual harassment article, demands greater transparency. As taxpayers, we should know the history of complaints of sexual harassment and/or workplace bullying. An effective sheriff's office with the proper oversight is in all of our interests. I look forward to the board asking the tough questions in the coming days, weeks, and months regarding the sheriff's office. Thank you for your time.
Okay, if the board has received public comment via our online portal per board policy, those comments were provided to members yesterday so they could be reviewed. Comments submitted electronically will be included in the minutes of this meeting. And now I would like to ask Member Rutledge and Jacqueline Casaza to go Green Glen Ellen to the podium for a presentation on plastics in our environment.
Thank you, everybody, and thanks for those who came to our night meeting. I'm so happy to share this information with you as well. When we know more, we do better, and so I've invited Jacqueline to give her presentation. The first time I heard this was at a League of Women Voters event, and I did invite her into my environmental committee to do a shorter presentation, but this is important what she's got to share, and I think it will have everybody be a little more mindful of plastics in our environment. So Jacqueline is the president and co-founder of Go Green Glen Ellen, a community environmental nonprofit. She serves on the Environmental Commission for the Village of Glen Ellen, and she's also a member of the National Volunteer Speaker Bureau for Beyond Plastics, a national nonprofit working to end plastic pollution. Something I think we should all do a little better. So I'll turn it over to you, Jacqueline. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Member Rutledge, for that introduction. My name again is Jacqueline Casaza, and I'm a lifelong resident of DuPage County. I grew up in Naperville, and I currently reside in Glen Ellen with my husband and 2 sons, who are in the gallery over there. And I really appreciate the opportunity to speak to the county board tonight about plastic. Now, you might think of plastic as an environmental problem or a litter problem, and it is both of those things. But tonight, I am here to share information with you that illustrates why plastic is a human health problem, which as a mom and a DuPage County community member concerns me the most about this plastic problem. Now, there are things we know and there are things we don't know about plastic and its impact on our bodies and our environment. So let's start with what we know. We know that plastic is made from fossil fuels and chemical additives. In fact, there are over 16,000 different chemical additives that can be used to make plastic and modify its properties, including its color, flexibility, and shape. And this is the part of the presentation where I show you cute pictures of my kids and talk about how useful plastic is before I get to some of the other information. So we know that plastic is an incredibly versatile material. It's durable, it's lightweight, it's inexpensive to make, and all these properties have made plastic very popular. Just think about all the plastic we use now that we didn't use even 15 to 20 years ago. Almost all food packaging, children's toys, all of our favorite synthetic, stretchy clothing that we love. Even just looking around this room, you can see many, many examples of things made from plastic. We also know that virtually every piece of plastic ever produced is still on this earth, and unfortunately, the majority of plastic waste is not recycled. You can see in this chart from the EPA that while in the last 50 years, we have dramatically increased our plastic waste generation, our recycling rate has barely budged. In fact, the average recycling rate for plastics in the US is only about 5%. And much of this is because the biggest contributor to plastic waste is single-use plastics, which account for nearly half of all plastic waste. Many single-use items like bags, straws, cutlery, takeout containers, and plastic packaging are not recyclable. So we know, therefore, that there is a tremendous amount of plastic that enters our environment, either as in the landfill or as litter. We also know that plastic does not biodegrade or break down. Instead, it breaks apart into small fragments when it's exposed to elements like light, heat, and pressure over time. I'll illustrate this again with another cute family photo. This is my son Patrick. We did a beach cleanup up in Michigan, and these are some plastic fragments we picked up off the beach. And you can see all the way on the right in the glass, there's a dime. That's the circle in the center. And that illustrates how small some of these plastic fragments become. But it doesn't stop there. Eventually, plastic grinds down into tinier and tinier fragments, first microplastics, and then even smaller to nanoplastics. Getting so small that it gets into our environment, as you can see in these photos. On the left is a fish that's ingested microplastics. In the middle is a snowflake with a microfiber filament. And then on the right is a microplastic in the stem of a plant. So here's something else we know. Microplastics are everywhere. They have been found in freshly fallen snow in Antarctica. They've been found at the deepest point of the ocean. and really all over the globe. Microplastics have been found in drinking water, both in tap and bottled water, much higher concentrations in bottled water, actually, in the studying of indoor and outdoor air, and in our food. And plastic is ingested by animals, as you can see, which is problematic for humans because most of us eat protein. And actually, a January 2024 study found microplastic particles in 88% of protein food samples across 16 different types, including seafood, as you would imagine, but also what surprised me, including as well pork, beef, chicken, tofu, and even 3 plant-based meat alternatives. Now, because of the pervasiveness of microplastics, something else we know is that we eat, breathe, drink, and absorb tiny pieces of plastic into our bodies every day. And we know this because multiple studies have found them in multiple places throughout the human body. Studies have found microplastics in the placentas of unborn babies, and in human breast milk, in our blood, and in our lungs. And this is irrespective of geographic location or socioeconomic status. This is truly a global problem. We also know that the chemicals in plastic and microplastic can and do leach out into our food web and into our bodies. And as I said, researchers have identified approximately 16,000 different chemicals that are used in the manufacturing of plastic, but nearly half of these have never been tested for human safety. And of those which have been tested, about 4,200 are considered to be highly hazardous to human health and the environment and include known carcinogens and endocrine disruptors. Now, endocrine disruptors, if you're not familiar with that term, those are chemicals that can mimic or confuse our endocrine system, which is what regulates our hormones. And almost every major organ in the body, like our brains, hearts, kidneys, pancreas, and reproductive organs, are regulated in part by our endocrine system. You may have heard of some of these chemicals or carcinogens, as I mentioned on the screen, such as vinyl chloride and benzene, as well as endocrine disruptors like DDT, BPA, parabens, phthalates, PFAS, and more. And here are pictures of common items that contain these chemicals. So as you can see, again, they are everywhere, very pervasive. Now, when it comes to endocrine disruptors, people are typically exposed to multiple endocrine disruptors at the same time. So assessing the individual health impact to one person is very difficult. But endocrine disruptors have been linked with reproductive, neurological, and immunity dysfunction, and other problems like obesity and hormone-sensitive cancers. Now, I'm not a medical professional, and I'm not here to tell you that the takeout container you ate out of for dinner is going to kill you, but the research is clear and becoming clearer that endocrine disruptors are linked to a variety of health issues. And all of us in this room probably know or have been impacted personally by things like infertility, miscarriage, ADHD, autism, autoimmune disorders, or cancer. Now, I presented on this subject to the County Board Environment Committee meeting last June, and since then, even more research has emerged that links plastic chemicals to a variety of health issues. For example, November 2023 linked nanoplastics to the prevalence of Parkinson's. February 2024 linked plastic chemicals to premature births. My sister is pregnant with twin boys right now, so that one particularly scared me. March 2024 found that microplastics and nanoplastics are emerging as a potential risk factor for cardiovascular disease. Research is emerging almost daily that is demonstrating time and time again that this material is not as benign as we think. So to summarize, we know that there is a tremendous amount of plastic in our environment. We know that it breaks apart into tiny micro and nanoplastics. We know that we eat, breathe, drink, and absorb these materials into our bodies. And we know that there are negative health impacts associated with the chemicals contained in plastic. But what we don't know is what the full impact of those chemicals will be to our health, to my health, to your health, to our children's health, to our grandchildren's health. And as a concerned resident of DuPage County, I want to ask everyone in the room listening, do we think it might be worth re-examining our relationship with plastic? We have never lived with the amount of plastic and exposure to these chemicals before. Plastic production has doubled in the last 15 years and is expected to double again in the next 15 years. And to begin to reduce our exposure, we need to refuse and reduce the amount of especially single-use plastic in our lives. And we need to do this not only in our own homes, but also in our communities. Now, that brings me to a piece of good news and a leadership opportunity for DuPage County. And that is that there is widespread support for elected officials like yourselves to play a role in reducing single-use plastic and plastic pollution. Based on a 2022 poll, 8 in 10 Americans favor local or state government policies to reduce single-use plastics. Yes, nearly 90% of Democrats and over 70% of Republicans actually agree on something. So I would like to ask the members of the board to explore ways to reduce single-use plastics throughout DuPage County. Single-use plastic is the biggest contributor to the plastic pollution problem, and therefore we can't make this problem any bigger than it already is. I welcome the opportunity to work with county leaders on possible solutions to explore to protect the health of county residents today and for years to come. Thank you.
Okay, does anybody have any questions or or comments for Jacqueline?
Hi, Mom.
Okay.
Questions, anybody? So, and thank you, Jacqueline. We are kind of limited in some of the things that we can do, but I think awareness is the first start with that. And so I wanted to bring this program to you. And I actually want to give a shout out to Lucy because she is paying attention to the amount of plastic that we have in our building, and we are trying to do something about that. So thank you so much.
Okay, Member Covert. Oh, sorry. I saw.
Oh. Sorry, Chair. Go ahead.
It's okay. Member Covert and then Member Desart.
Thank you so much for this wonderful presentation. We always hear about the environmental effects and not a lot about the health effects. So I really love the presentation, and thank you so much for coming out here. People do listen here in our DuPage County campus. A couple examples, Sheila and I know this. Sheila worked on getting a specific type of plastic for containers for the cafeteria. Thank you for that. And also, a couple months ago, I noticed that the cookies were being packaged in this plastic wrap, and I just suggested maybe paper would be better. They switched it out the next week.
Wonderful.
So they do
Thank
listen.
you.
You're welcome. And we just have to do our part and reduce plastic wherever we can and just spread the awareness and let people know. I agree. Thank you.
Member Desart.
Oh, thank you, Madam Chair. Thank you so much for your important presentation. Really a great presentation, but very scary. A very scary presentation. So on any good news, do you see industries that are changing their ways to help mitigate some of these problems? For example, I have noticed that some of my favorite restaurants, when I order takeout now, they're using cardboard containers instead of plastic containers. Is that, are we going out to the industries to say, hey, you can do this more effectively if you use a different product than plastic?
I think that individual restaurants on their own some of them are starting to do that. I think there's some opportunity. For example, in Illinois, there's a bill that's been proposed to ban polystyrene foam, which is not recyclable, and it's one of the worst single-use plastics out there. So, for example, eliminating something like that throughout the state would also help level the playing field for restaurants because, a lot of people use styrofoam because it's cheap. And sometimes the paper products can be more expensive, but also, by discouraging restaurants from using single-use plastics, it would also spur innovation. Another area that DuPage County could help is that Illinois last year passed a law that allowed individuals to bring their own containers to restaurants for ready-made food. And I know I worked with Joy to get some information on the DuPage County website, but it's optional for restaurants, and it's just not something I think that a lot of restaurants know about. So helping to educate and perhaps incentivize restaurants to allow for reuse where people can bring stainless steel or glass containers from home that are clean would really help to eliminate a lot of that single-use plastic.
Thank you so much, everybody. I appreciate your listening.
You
Oh, I'm sorry. Member Guston had one more question.
Thank you very much. Your presentation was very informative. I can remember the days when everything was in glass, and glass is typically recyclable. Is there any conversation about, modifying the way in which things are done now? I mean, I'm sitting here with a water bottle that I just got in the back room, which could have been something different, right? So is there any conversation about that? And then also, not only Springfield, but I mean, this needs to go across the country. So I'm not, sure what movement has been made in that direction.
So as far as are things changing, I think things are changing slowly. Like I know, for example, I have a company that bottles water in aluminum, but there's still a lot of single-use plastic out there. I think providing things like you guys have in the building, like a bottle filling station, and providing things like that in parks and more public places, and making people aware of it so that people can bring their own bottles from home and reuse those. Because really, the plastic water bottle is just a convenience thing, right? If you were able to get your own water, you would.
Yeah, we have a great water department that gives us really good DuPage water. So it is tasty. It's it's more tasty than this. So yeah. And do you think we'll see any movement out of Illinois? Like, do you think we'll see it coming into other states and maybe people grabbing onto this concept?
I think that Illinois, there is definitely good traction in Illinois. I'm part of a group called the Coalition for Plastic Reduction that's working on statewide legislation in Illinois to help reduce single-use plastics. But to me, I think also part of it is just connecting the dots about the health issues, because again, like I said at the beginning, a lot of people think of plastic as a litter problem, which is not quite as compelling as you're eating microplastic and it's floating around in your body all the time. That's usually compels a little bit more people to act. So I think sharing that information and having that information and sharing it with other people who you all know and work with would be really helpful and important. So
thank you. Thank you again.
Thank you.
Member Ozog.
I want to thank you for your presentation.
Thank
and
you.
I didn't know about being able to bring your own containers to restaurants. I recently bought a set of glass storage, a set of just 5 or 6 pieces. They don't multiply in the drawer. So your drawers
amazing,
can stay
isn't it?
cleaner, and you're using glass, and you can find the tops. So, but thank you for that information. Thank you very much.
Yeah.
Member Krajewski, and then Member Cahill.
I think you mentioned that the recycling has not really gone up or anything for the last many, many years. Did I hear that correctly?
Yes, that's correct.
And what would be the biggest thing to increase the amount? I mean, what biggest thing you could do or somebody could do to increase the amount of recycling?
Yeah, so unfortunately, plastic is just very, very difficult to recycle. Aluminum, the recycling rate for aluminum in the United States is about 75%, and for paperboard, it's like around 66%. So, but plastic is very difficult to recycle because even a clear plastic milk jug and like a colored laundry detergent milk jug, even though they're both a number 2 plastic, they cannot be recycled together. So there's,
but people are just not recycling, so they're just throwing it in and.
Not necessarily. I don't think it's the consumer necessarily that's not recycling. I think consumers are doing what they can. There can always be more education, but as that chart showed, I think there is a lot of education in DuPage County, and I know that in DuPage County, Joy or Sheila can correct me if I'm wrong, but the recycling rates in DuPage County have not really changed over the last 5 or 10 years. And I live and produce education all the time for residents about recycling, but some of it is just that plastic is hard to recycle. It's really only like the beverage containers and the heavy-duty plastics that are desirable.
Are the garbage vendors, are they really recycling it? Because I've heard people go into their plants and they see them come with the recycle truck and the garbage truck, separate trucks, but then dump it all in the same spot.
They do their best. I have been to the Groot facility that picks up the trash for Glen Ellen, and I've also been to Lakeshore LRS facility, a materials recovery facility in Chicago, and they have state-of-the-art technology. In DuPage County, we're so lucky that we have state-of-the-art technology to sort these plastics. It's just that plastic, when you recycle it, after it's recycled once or twice, it degrades in quality. So you really can't turn a water bottle back into the pristine, clear water bottle that everybody wants. So not like an aluminum can that can be recycled infinitely over and over again.
Thank you.
Member Cahill.
Thank you very much. Thank you for your presentation. I heard it in the Environmental Committee meeting last June, and since then I also read that microplastics were found in the carotid artery. So my suggestion is that we would include, maybe you could summarize like a little highlight or something, and we can include it in our newsletter, because we all have countywide newsletters that go out to our constituents, and I think this would be something that maybe we can talk about and add that to our newsletter.
That'd be great.
Thank you.
I appreciate that.
Member Glassie.
Thank you, Madam Chair. One other suggestion is if you have like a Facebook graphic that you could get to Sheila or the chair, that we could post that maybe would get us a link to your site or, you know, to this presentation so that people could understand the health risks.
Okay.
I think Facebook is a great way for all of us to promote this information.
Wonderful. Thank you so much. I really appreciate it.
Appreciate y'all willing to share.
Yeah, thank you. Okay.
Isn't it? The peanut gallery is so fun. I love this. I love this. Okay, now I'd like to invite Nick Kottmeyer and Anthony McPherson to the podium. So also this evening, we have an update on our work related to diversity, equity, and inclusion. Our Chief Administrative Officer, Nick Kottmeyer, and CIO, Anthony McPherson, will lead our discussion.
I will just, a couple short words, turn over to Anthony here for the presentation. This is a culmination tonight of probably about 4 or 5 years worth of effort. If you remember, this started off as a strategic initiative for the county back in 2019, I think, and this is the culmination of that. We recently had the same presentation at committee last week, and so a couple of you will see it twice, but this is definitely a group effort that has happened over many years. Probably about half the people in that audience have been part of this effort to get to this point. So afterwards, we have our expert Colette Holt online, and then staff will be up here answering any questions you may have, but I will turn over to Anthony.
All right. Good evening. Thank you, Madam Chair, and Nick, thank you very much. So what I'd like to do on behalf of the committee is walk you through what we've done since 2019. I think the effort started even prior to that. I think I heard, a few years prior to that, and the bulk of the effort started in 2019. So I'm going to take a step back, walk you through the background of how it started, talk a little bit about what we've done over the past couple of years, and then share with you what our plans are for moving forward. And we're hoping at the end of the conversation, we get great support from this board and you help us move this initiative forward. All right, so let's start with the background. In 2019, the county thought that diversity and inclusion was so important that it actually added a 6th imperative to the 5 imperatives that were currently in place. One focused specifically on diversity and inclusion, so that started the gist of where we are today. There were 2 big efforts that happened after that that kind of jump-started things. Number one, there was a preliminary study conducted, and that preliminary study essentially evaluated procurement policies that we had in place, our procedures, what outreach that we had done to that point, performed a data collection at the time, and also at the very end made some short and long-term recommendations. The second big step as part of this process was the push from our ad hoc committee on diversity and inclusion. So they got behind this initiative and really pushed for us to develop this program, but this program that's specific to 4 of our departments. So Department of Transportation, Public Works, Stormwater, and Facilities Management at the time. So that's the background of kind of how things started. Then, since then, we've done a lot more. So these are just 4 of the main activities that we have focused on. This is not an exhaustive list by any means, but these are big things that have taken us forward. So the first thing that we did was we identified a tool, a tracking tool, to help us collect information on minority business enterprises, women in enterprises, and we've collected data since 2022 in this tool. So the tool is called B2G Now. We executed the contract a couple of years ago. We currently use it today to collect that data and provide reports and important information related to minority and women-owned businesses. The second thing we did, which I'll talk a little more about on the next slide, and it's probably the most important part of this, was we hired a company, a national subject matter expert on business diversity and contract equity to come in and perform a disparity study, which is really at the heart of identifying if there really truly are disparities out there within DuPage County. And if so, what are they? And again, the disparity study is based on quantitative and qualitative data. But what are they, and if we have them, what goals do we need to set to move forward? So that happened. We hired Colette Holt, an associate who Nick mentioned is currently online. And Colette produced a lengthy report and then also recommendations for us to move forward. The third thing we completed was there was a public act released in 2022. That public act was Public Act 102-0265. Essentially, with this public act, it required for taxing bodies, including DuPage County, to collect information about minority, women-owned businesses, as well as veteran-owned businesses in a good faith effort. So collect the information and publish that information. So we did that. So the IT department worked with our planning team along with the procurement department. We created a portal and we invited all of our vendors, including our minority subcontractors, to submit data, the good faith data that we needed to collect it. We got hundreds of responses to that, and that information is currently in our database. So those are the things that we completed. We also made an attempt to hire support staff to help us really focus our attention on developing the program, developing goals, and other things moving forward. Unfortunately, that position did not get filled. I think at that time, the description we created wasn't fully aligned to where we needed to go and what we needed. So we pulled that position down and decided to move forward and come up with a new solution. So disparity study, I mentioned this earlier, and again, it's the heart of what we're doing right now. Without having the data from the disparity study, it's impossible for us to move forward, right? There's no data to stand behind our claim. So a couple things you should be aware of. In 2022, Colette Holt studied and analyzed construction-related contracts from 2017 to 2021 with a total value of $131 million. And then the study, the study found a disparity, a direct disparity between minority-owned firms available in DuPage County's marketplace and the number of minority women-owned firms utilized by DuPage County government. So based on those findings, our subject matter expert, a consulting company, made some recommendations on how we could move forward. They recommended that we implement race and gender neutral measures to address this disparity. They recommended that we adopt a disadvantaged minority and women-owned business enterprise program and associated policy, but specifically for contract and contract-related items only, and to create contract-related goals. For those of you who are not clear on the contract-related piece, it's specific to consulting, so really engineering. Design, engineering, and things of that nature is the contract-related component. It also recommended that we develop performance measures to ensure that we kept track of our progress, right? Without having metrics to measure how we're doing, we won't know how we're doing 5 or 6 years from now. So that was one of the recommendations. And the last recommendation was to conduct regular program reviews to make sure that there's still a disparity and are we following our recommended guidelines and the goals that were set forth. So in 2023, just as a reminder, Colette Holt presented the disparity study in detail to this board and received approval and a lot of great feedback from a lot of you to move forward with our recommendations. So what's our plan? Which is super important. We have, a couple of big steps in the process. The first part of a program like this is really to define your scope, right? Because if you don't define your scope, it could grow out of control, and there are a lot of things that you can focus on. So in this particular case, we define our scope as related to construction and construction-related contracts only at this time. Second thing we did was we're working to develop the disadvantaged minority and women business enterprise rules, policies, and language that's specific to DuPage County, right? So crafted so that it is specific to us, how we work, and any disparities that we have within our county. The third thing is our plan is to create a division, a group that can focus on this important work, who's dedicated to managing the day-to-day operations, helping us set the goals, and then help us set and track the goals moving forward. And then the last thing on our plan that we felt was important was to get in front of you guys. To number one, present to the Strategic Planning Committee, which we did, then to present to the entire board today to get feedback. And our ultimate goal is to come back to you in 2 weeks in hopes that we get your support for approval to move this forward and to start establishing the program. All right, a couple of things I think you should be aware of. We have immediate goals that we have to address right away and we want to focus on. Then we have a few long-term goals that you should be aware of as well. So for the immediate goals, there's really 2 big ones. The first one is essentially the program. We need to get your approval to move forward with creating this program. Then as soon as we're done, once we get that approval, the goal is to do outreach and education to our vendors to let them know the program exists, right? To solicit them to sign up so that we can start tracking their information and also start advertising these different opportunities to those groups. Second thing is, the third thing, is to educate and train staff on the program and the specifics of our program. Our program is much different than others. There are a lot of very important details that they need to be aware of and they need to adhere to. And then last is, as I mentioned earlier, is to establish the division of contracting equity so that there's a clear focus on this important work. The second big goal, immediate goal, is for us to actually hire a contract equity administrator, a person, again, who is fully responsible for keeping track of the details of the program, who's responsible for helping us set the goals and keep track of the goals moving forward. This position will, because of the work, the work that it's focused on, which is the contractors and contractor-related items, that it falls under finance and procurement specifically for now. So it's the goal. So to report to our deputy CFO, who will administer and manage that resource in the division. And then last but not least, this individual will provide any type of technical assistance or administration of the program in detail. All right, what are our long-term goals so that you're aware of it? So just a few things. Number one, we're going to continue to collect data using our B2G Now diversity compliance application so that we can measure our goals, track our goals, and respond to any changes in the future. We're going to ensure contract compliance, which we believe is super important. We're going to provide regular updates to the Strategic Planning Committee to ensure that we get guidance and support from that committee. And then the program will sunset in 6 years. That's a requirement by law. But we'll take a look at it again. We'll, if we need to, issue another disparity study to see if there's any glaring gaps and then move forward. If not, the ultimate goal is to achieve contract parity. And if we achieve contract parity, there's no need for a program. So that's where we are. I'm going to bring Nick back up to highlight a few more things before we open up to questions.
Thank you, Anthony. So I just wanted to take the opportunity. We recently presented the DBE program at the Strategic Planning Committee. We received a number of really, really good questions. So I figured maybe we could start going over those, and then we'll bring everybody that was involved up here, and we can answer any questions you might have. So first one out there is there will be no quotas in the county's program. This was a very clear thing. Anthony went over that. Each individual contract will receive an assigned contract goal based on availability of minority-owned and women-owned firms who can do work at that time. So more defensible. It's instead of having across-the-board quota, we are contract-specific determining as we move forward. One other question was why the program was limited to construction and construction-related contracts. It's a very good question. As Anthony said, this is related to our 4 big construction departments: transportation, public works, facilities management, and stormwater. And there's a reason for that, because we are starting the program with a legally defensible part of the program as possible. DBE programs in construction and construction-related industries have been around for decades, tried and true and tested, and we wanted to start there. Additionally, the county spends most of its dollars in these areas. Anthony mentioned we spend about $131 million over 5 years, so we figured we would get the most bang for the buck by concentrating on those 4 departments. So we can always expand it over time, but this is a really, really good start. Final question that came up. A couple board members asked why we don't expand it out to other groups, persons with disabilities, veterans. How come we don't include those in the program? Well, what we said in that meeting is we recommend, considering what we've done right now, our disparity study was for particular groups. We can look at other groups down the line. It doesn't have quite the same requirements as what we did for the groups we have, but we can absolutely add those. And if we determine that there's any type of problems with equal contracting, we can include them at any time down the line. So that's those were the 3 main questions. So with that, I would ask our group who is involved in this, please come up. And we've got Colette Holt on the line. She is our expert, nationwide expert. We can try to answer any questions that the board may have.
Okay, member to start.
First of all, thank you for, this is such an important initiative, so thank you for all your hard work. I just want to say, wow, there's so much to tackle here, I'm not even sure where to start. First of all, Anthony, you said that you were looking for support staff for this, but then you pulled it down and then came up with a new solution. So my first question is, what's the new solution? And then I think you answered that later in the presentation when you said that you want to hire an equity supervisor and then have the county division, the contracting equity division. Am I reading that correctly?
That's right. You get the gold star. Board members to start, but that's absolutely it. So initially, the position that we created really didn't have the roles and responsibilities and the salary to match what we really need here. We've learned a lot over the past 2 years, and we created that new position with a different description, different salary requirement. We believe we'll find what we're looking for now.
Very, very good. And who will this contracting equity division report to? What would their committee be? Members coverts? Oh,
You're
finance.
going to report to finance, and the reason why we picked finance is all of the contracts flow through there. It made the most sense to have that division in there, because everything they will be doing is contractual, going out to the community, education. So that's why finance was determined. At some point, it might be its own department down the line, but for right now, we're trying to get this program up and running.
This was such a great, complicated presentation that I hope will allow me to call you tomorrow and the next day and say, oh, what about this? So thank you for now, Member Chair Conroy.
Member Krajewski and then Member Chaplin.
Thank you. And I raised this issue before the board meeting and at strategic planning. And again, I didn't ask. I mean, maybe somebody else did. How come it wasn't? I said we're trying to be inclusive. We're forgetting one major group, and that's the veteran-owned firms. I've been practicing in this area for 30 years. I represent a lot of MBEs, WBEs, DBEs, but also veteran-owned firms. And so I'm not sure why we've excluded that one. I mean, if you look, Cook County, I pulled up right now, Illinois has the State of Illinois Commission on Equity and Inclusion Veterans Benefit Program. After all the wars this country's been in and all the veterans who've come back have had a hard time finding jobs, let alone, so that's why the City of Chicago, State of Illinois, federal government through the SBA program, has included veterans too. But that's the four big ones. It seems like we're missing one. I would suggest, I raised it with the chairwoman, that we move forward with veterans or disabled veterans also, firms, and we seem to have just excluded that group when, I look at it as the big four out there, the WB, the DBE, and the MBEs, but also the veterans.
Could I ask Colette Holt, are you online? Would you like to answer that?
I am online. You probably can't, I don't know if you can see me or not, but that's okay if you can't. Hopefully you can hear me. And I think I heard everything the commissioner said. It was a little bit faint, but let me address why veterans are not usually included in disparity studies. And the first one really is a legal reason, and that is that veteran status is not considered to be a constitutionally suspect classification. And you said you practice in this area, so I'm going straight to lawyer speak, so I can decode that for normal people. But they aren't considered a suspect classification for equal protection purposes. And disparity studies are really designed to answer the constitutional question of whether or not the disfavored tool of race or gender-based decision-making by governments is permissible under the legal standard of strict constitutional scrutiny. So we have certainly always counseled clients not to waste your money by including veterans in a disparity study, because there really is no need to do that from the standpoint of supporting a program. I mean, these are programs designed to address discrimination on the basis of race and gender. And since the courts have never told us that we need the same level of proof to provide some type of preference for military veterans, we just generally don't think it's a good use of resources to try to spend that time. That doesn't mean that the county could not, as some agencies have, adopt a separate program if it wants to give a preference or benefit on the basis of military service. I can tell you that in the studies that we've had where clients have basically kind of insisted, yes, please go ahead and do this research anyway, we really have not picked up discrimination against people on the basis of military service. If anything, for example, in the recent study we conducted for the Washington State Department of Transportation, the people that we interviewed told us that being a veteran can be a benefit, but they weren't being discriminated against or being denied contracts or opportunities because they were veterans. And so I think that the programs really have very different objectives. So, for example, the state of Illinois does have a veteran preference program. It's in the Department of Veterans Affairs. The state has re-scrambled and restructured a lot of stuff lately, but it's always been a separate program. So DuPage County is certainly free if it wants to adopt a program to give some type of preference to veteran-owned businesses. You know, it's certainly free to do that. You never needed a disparity study to do it, and you don't need it now. I can tell you, however, that at least for the city of Chicago and Cook County, because we conducted their disparity studies too, that businesses often have a lot of trouble trying to meet any type of veteran goals. There are no real solid data sources to determine the availability of veteran-owned businesses or even the subset of service-disabled owned veterans. And so it's been very difficult to try to actually fit that into the statistical framework that we use to study race and gender. And firms by and large have just get waivers, for example, from the state and the city most of the time on these VBE goals because they can't meet them. But again, that doesn't mean that the county might not want to try to provide that benefit. But the disparity study is designed to address discrimination and the legal standards that the federal courts have given us in order to use race and gender-based decision-making.
So, we can put a program, you just don't need to go through the disparity study. Which is already, because it's been, I think you said settled in court that that's one that's not discriminated. So we could put a program in place similar to this, but we don't have to do the.
And that was a recommendation of strategic planning.
That's fine.
If you want to move it forward, you can add 5 other groups down the line.
I'm not sure there's 5 other ones to add, but that's fine. So that answers the question. We didn't have to go through the disparity site, but we're free to put in the program.
Okay, Member Chaplin.
Thank you, Madam Chair. So thank you so much for the presentation, Anthony and Nick. It was really very good and, as Don said, complicated, but good. Just a couple questions to follow up. The BG2 compliance software. So is that what tracks the data then that we're supposed to be doing by state law? Is that the?
Yeah, Valerie can add to it, but the answer is yes, and it's B2G now, compliance software.
Yes.
So yeah.
So that's what tracks our data then? Is that the?
That's what we're going to use to track the data moving forward. So we use 2 things, and Valerie can chime in on it. So we created the portal. IT department created a portal so that we can collect data prior to the implementation of B2G now. We still have that portal, and we're still collecting information from that portal, but we also have the data in B2G now so that we can use moving forward to track our goals and other information.
And does that data then include subcontractors as well?
It does.
Oh, great,
Yeah.
because we may not, our contractors may not be getting but they may be giving it out to disadvantaged businesses. So we do track the subcontractors as well.
I will tell you, that was probably the largest part of what Colette Holt and her company did, was to go back and look at those companies and figure out subcontractors and get that data. That was a monumental task that they did a great job on tracking all that down.
Great, and then that will guide us to see how we're meeting our goals or coming out of that 6 years then.
Correct.
Okay, great.
Yeah. And hopefully before then, right? So before 6 years, we'll track it on a regular basis.
Okay, and then that data does not include, I would assume it does not include veteran businesses because we're not including those in the study, correct?
That is correct.
If I can chime in here for just a second on that, you can configure B2G to pick up almost anything you want. So if the county decides that it wants to track the utilization of veteran-owned businesses, it can absolutely, use the system to do that. It can track all sorts of things. It just is a configuration question.
So great, that's a great, okay, so thank you for chiming in because, we could track to see, we might be doing business with veterans that we don't know about because we haven't tracked it too. So that might be something that we could track as well.
Yeah, we don't have the information right now.
Right.
But as Colette said, we could easily,
yeah, absolutely.
We can easily transition and get some data and then bring it before the board to figure out, okay, do we want to add that group?
Yeah, okay, great. Well, thank you very much. Those are all my questions.
Okay, Member Evans.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Thank you for this presentation. It sounds like a monumental effort, and very difficult to implement. So I just want to say, I'm glad to hear that subcontractors are going to be tracked as well because some of the contracts are so large that how is a small business or women or minority business going to take any of these, roadway contract or something? They probably need to start with, being a subcontractor or something. But so in that vein, are we looking at maybe even making some of our contracts smaller, maybe, I mean, that, it's not like you do that in your departments or anything, but
We are not artificially going to break down contracts necessarily, but when we have a roadway project per se, we'll do the analysis to figure out what is the appropriate requirement for that project at that time, and then that will be part of the bidding documents. So that will create opportunities out there for that, but it's important that we, as we said before, project by project by project.
okay. And then, so then, I think there's a lot of entrepreneurs out there that would probably be open to, hey, striking it out on their own. They're working for these businesses now. Maybe they could break off and start their own company. So I just want to point out that that takes time. But I think this is a great opportunity for them. I would like for us to, for me at least, for any of us with people in their network, to be able to reach out and tell them, hey, this is where you need to go to learn about how to do business with the county. So how are we gonna publicize that?
That is absolutely it is going to take a while for our contractors, our businesses in DuPage County and around DuPage County to understand this program to fully implement. And education is going to be a huge part of what that position is going to be doing. They're going to going out there to different trade groups, different organizations, to absolutely let them know the opportunities that are available at DuPage. I think that's half the battle, is to make our opportunities known to a wider audience.
Thank you.
Okay, member you.
Thank you, Madam Chair. So first, I just want to thank Anthony again for this presentation, because I was at the one at strategic planning and you added, I think, like another couple slides. So thanks for the updates. And two, I just want to thank Colette for that excellent answer with regard to the disparity study and the fact that, yes, we did the disparity study. It was specific with regard to race and gender, and there was a significant disparity that was found in DuPage County, which we need to address. And that's what we're doing here today and going forward. So thanks for that. And then third, I think there was a question that I had asked during Strategic Planning Committee, and I think it might benefit the rest of the members to also hear about how B2G now is kind of connected to a whole bunch of other agencies in the state, all that information. And fourth, I was going to ask about the status of of whether the job posting has now been posted with regard to the equity coordinator.
Okay, I think I'll take the first one. On the B2G Now software, we are currently using this software. So we are tracking our vendors for construction related. So the portal definitely is up. We've also sent out communications because the City of Chicago is using it, the Tollway, Cook County. So we definitely have used it for our last outreach last year, and we continue to use it. So we do ask that they sign up as a business. It's not about just finding out about DuPage County, because we do go out to outreach events currently. So we are promoting it as well. We also have our website that we have a vendor registration at that people can sign up at, for one, and we definitely look at those vendors. And then we also have the Public Act website as well that will track those for us as well. So we do get out there and really talk about the communication. I know that the Division of Transportation also does that as well.
Okay, member Cahill.
Madam Chair.
Oh, sorry.
Do you mind? Let me just add to that response, because I think where you're going with that is that B2G Now is connected, it collects data from other counties and other organizations. So not only do we have the minority and women-owned businesses who registered with us, but we now have access to the ones who are registered with some of their other customers, and we can solicit those companies as well. It kind of opens up our pool.
You had a second part of the question regarding the position. Can you repeat that one more time, please? The position.
Can you use your microphone?
Sorry, thank you. You had mentioned that you guys had posted the position at one point and then you took it down, and I just wanted to know if it was posted back up again.
So we posted it. We had very little response. We took it down. We have not posted the current position. We wanted to see the outcome of this discussion, and then we would post it. And everybody needs to realize, even after the board approves the resolution, this is going to take a while to tool up. You cannot tool up a program like this instantly overnight. This is going to be some point in 2025. This will be going, there's a lot we have to get in place, a lot of education, a lot of seminars out there. So it's going to be a while, and I just want everybody to realize that.
Okay, Member Cahill.
Yes, thank you. Thank you for the presentation. It sounds great. I'm supportive. My question is, I had an accounting firm for many years. I was a woman-owned business. I had to go through a very detailed and difficult process in order to fulfill that application, and then there was much review of it and verification with tax returns and W-2s and all sorts of information. So my first question was, is the software, and I think you answered it, Anthony, going to be linked to the Illinois, the Cook County, and the federal women-owned business software so you can know who those people are? Or are they going to have to come back to the county and fill out their own new form as a woman-owned enterprise? Yeah.
So we're going to recognize other certifications to make
Okay,
it as
good.
easy as possible because we don't want to have additional barriers for women and minorities. We're trying to have less barriers. So it's important that we recognize, and if you see the policy in front of you, we go into detail on that. All of the ones recognized by USDOT, which is Tollway, and some other ones, City of Chicago, Cook County.
Right. Okay, perfect. And then the second question is, so all those, we're gonna have a seminar to kind of go over this for everybody and to make sure that they know what's happening?
Many, that's one of the biggest things when we hire the new person. They're going to be spending the first 6-8 months of their time here doing nothing but outreach and seminars and trying to get in touch with as many people as possible.
And are you gonna give a preference to a DuPage County resident
We
or a
cannot do
DuPage County business?
We cannot do a preference.
Okay.
Because DuPage County is not home rule.
Okay, that's right. Okay, thank you.
Okay, Member Garcia.
Thank you, and thank you to all the staff that put this together. This has been a team effort, as we can see, and I really appreciate this. It's a great thing we're doing, and what I guess I hear a lot of consensus from all of my fellow board members that this is something we really want to get going on and forward. So my question is, what happens next? So you're saying it's going to be a little bit of a slow start up to get everything going. The BG2 now is already up and going, so that's good. So I guess, how are we going to find out what the results are, if you're getting any kind of...
So a lot of the hard work, the heavy lifting has been done so far. That's a disparity study. That's what Colette and her company has done. They've done this heavy lifting to kind of establish where we at DuPage County. Moving forward, we know that now. So the steps are, if the board is, at some point in the future, if you want to, you move forward to the resolution establishing this program. We hire an individual. We go out and we market it. While we're marketing it, while we're doing that, we're establishing kind of the ground rules and getting it lined out. We're going to stub our toe on this one moving forward. I guarantee that we're not going to meet guidelines right away either. It's going to take a while, both for us, for the companies to get to know it, and what we can't do is we can't jeopardize the work we have to get done at the county.
Right.
Our goal is to meet the goals we established for a specific project. We may fall short. We may exceed them. It's going to take a while to get it out there, but the ultimate goal then is to continually, analyze where we're at, what we're doing, and then in a perfect world, we come back to you at the end of this, and when you guys are looking, okay, what do we do with the disparity study? We say, you guys can end it. We've now reached parity across the thing. We've achieved what we wanted to. No need to have it. That's the ultimate goal. If not, we come back to you at 5-6 years and say, okay, do we want to move forward with phase 2 of it? But all along, we're getting data, we're getting analytics to be able to, and we can report to you guys as often as you'd like.
Oh, okay, that's what I was wondering. Are we going to get reports on a regular basis? Just because, as Public Works and Facilities is kind of my chair thing, so I kind of want to know what's going on and making sure.
All of it's going to be real-time data as we move forward. That's what B2G gives us. It really gives us some really good real-time data.
All right, thank you, Dick.
Okay, we still have several people with questions. Member Guston.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Thank you very much, all of you, for all your hard work. You guys are professional, and I know you're going to do a great job on this. The one thing, though, with the vet and the disabled veterans companies, it looks like we have a lack of statistics on it, but in my view, they're a protected class, and I would love to see it included in our program. If it doesn't pan out and there isn't a lot of need for them to have help, we'll know it through the program. Versus excluding them instead of including them. So I'm hoping that we can do that. because I think we're going to have more of a response than we think. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Chair. Thank you, everyone. I really appreciate the level setting that you're doing, which is saying this is how long the process is going to take. And this is the sort of speed bumps that we're anticipating, right? So, because that's what I kind of wanted to talk about was when we did, for example, the small business grants where we were trying to help small businesses, they had trouble even with the grant application form. So a lot of them missed out on opportunities simply because they were unable to complete the paperwork properly. So I'm very happy to hear that there's going to be a huge educational component of this. And if you can let us know how we can help with that, because I do think the better prepared we are to help out first-time applicants to this type of a program, then the higher success rate we're going to have. And some of these maybe businesses, they've never done something like this. They've never had this opportunity. And so I think making sure that we level the playing field as much as we can just in terms of the procurement process and the application process would be huge. Okay.
One other great thing we have is Choose DuPage. It can help with certifications, and so
Wonderful.
can College DuPage. There's businesses out there that charge money to help applicants get the certification, but COD will do it for free. Choose DuPage is really helpful, and we're going to guide people in that direction.
That's terrific.
And I will say, you're seeing part of our team here, but, you know, Greg Bedloff, he was here before. He's been an excellent resource.
Yes.
He was at the tollway when they created it.
Right.
Chris Snyder, who, I mean, he was in from the very beginning. It's been a huge team, but we have a lot of resources, which is great.
Okay, wonderful. So thank you so much for setting all of our expectations. We're at a manageable place because it is very much a marathon, not a sprint, and we have to think really, really big picture here and long term. So thank you for having that vision. I appreciate it.
Member Zay.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Total head count for this new division and budget that would go with it?
Right now, a head count of one.
Just one?
But
Well, it sounds like you're gonna need support staff with this.
well,
I mean,
keep in mind, that's why we're putting it in finance.
Yeah.
Because a lot of the, you know, as it grows, it might be more, but there's a lot of crossover that can be done and head count there. And as, once again, walk before we run. We want to get this person in, figure out, and I may very well be coming to this board next year going, I need 2 more, or I need 3 more. I don't know. I don't know what's involved, but the most resources and the most support that we can come up with is in finance right now, and the most, you know, overlap with procurement. But you're right, it may very well be, it's gonna be more than one at some point. When that is, I don't know.
Okay, and then you said construction. My only concern is construction's low bid. How do we waive low bid then on these?
No, you
or-
still do low bid.
Okay, but
You
they're
still
just
do-
an extra box to check?
It's
Is that
still
what it's gonna
low
be?
bid. You put the requirements in there for a specific contract. I mean, it's common industry practice across all of them. I mean, we do it right now, like in Public Works, because we're doing it under a state bid. There's certain requirements in there. We specify it. They know they have to get those subcontractors lined out before they bid and as part of their bid.
Okay.
It's still gonna be low bid.
Still the same process. It's just one of the boxes checked in there was minority, woman-owned, whatever.
Yeah, and we have the same thing in DOT. Anything that's run through IDOT with federal money, IDOT establishes what that goal needs to be, and that's part of the bid process for the contractor.
Okay, great.
The nice thing is a lot of the departments already have some knowledge on how to work it, so it's not completely foreign affair for us. I mean, we have some experience already with it.
Okay, Member Galassi.
Thank you, Madam Chair. To Member Zay's point, what is the salary range that you're going to post once it's posted after this conversation?
It's under a class of 314, which would, what we're thinking is about 90 to 120, I believe, is what we have budgeted out of ARPA for it currently.
Okay, perfect, thank you. And then I think you kind of answered my question, but I remember this from last summer when we had this conversation about this disparity study. Is the disparity study evaluating contracts awarded, or how many women-owned and minority business owners apply, you know?
I'm gonna defer to Colette on that. She's the expert.
Sure. Actually, all of that. So the disparity study looks at least two things. The first is, what was the county's utilization of minority and women-owned firms as measured in dollars? We also have it as number of firms, but dollars is a much more useful measure. And that does include, to one of the commissioner's questions, I'm sorry, I don't remember which one, but yes, that includes subcontractors and suppliers as well. So that's the first piece. What's the utilization of minority and women-owned firms? And then the second question is, what was the availability of women and minority-owned firms? And you compare those, and to the extent that there is a gap or a disparity that is negative, then that has been held by the federal courts to be evidence of the possible operation of race or gender discrimination in your market.
Thank you for that response. I'm just curious, though, if we're still using lowest responsible bid, then it's, I don't know how that, like those two, it seems incongruous. Does that make sense? Like if there are 3 people bidding and 2 are women-owned businesses and 1 is not, but the lowest responsible bid was the one who was not a woman-owned business, then how does that calculate into the disparity study?
So with each contract, we are going to make sure that we have a goal. So they're individual. So it's really based on the utilization and the availability. So we have to think about what is the availability before we set out the goal for that contract. And it will be released with that goal in mind.
Okay.
And let me add too, because if I think I understand your question, which is how does this all fit into a lowest responsible bidder
Correct.
approach?
That's my question. Yes.
And yeah, it's important to know that the federal courts 35 years ago told us that we couldn't give points and we couldn't give set-asides. So minority and women bidders as primes don't get any extra points or anything. What Valerie was talking about is setting a goal for utilization on the total contract price, which could be met either through the woman or minority bidder being a certified firm or through the use of some combination of subcontractors and suppliers. What is required to be responsive is to make a good faith effort to meet the goal. It's not a quota. It's not a set aside. I really can't stress that enough. So if a bidder who is not a certified minority and women-owned firm makes a good faith effort and tries to get subs and they all cost too much or nobody's available or they can't do the work, and they establish that to the satisfaction of the county, then that bidder will be awarded the contract. So you can be awarded a contract with 0 participation. You just have to demonstrate that you made a good faith effort. And that is the way that IDOT's program works, the tollways, and all the other programs that have frankly been upheld across the country, including in Illinois.
Okay, thank you. And then just one last comment. I know last summer when we discussed this, there was a lot of conversation, and even today, about just education, making sure that these businesses are aware of what the application process is and how to apply and aware of the work that could be done. And you mentioned Choose DuPage, and they can do the registrations and things like that. Are we also going to utilize Choose DuPage for the education process?
Without a doubt. Right. We've already, and there has already been partnerships that our team has made with Choose DuPage and Greg Bedloff. They've already gone out and we've done various events out there already with, go ahead if you want to.
And in addition to those partnerships, we sponsored a vendor fair last year where we brought in, it was successful, we brought in quite a few companies to participate. We're going to do it again next year. So at the end of this year or first thing next year, we're working on a vendor fair as well.
Okay,
so that
great.
we can educate
That's
them.
great. Thank you.
Member Colbert.
Oh, I believe Member Dessert was before me.
Member Dessert.
Thank you, and actually, thank you, Member Covert. A lot of my questions have been answered now. I was glad to see that Greg Bedloff is part of the team as well. I know that he and Choose DuPage have done some how to do business in DuPage County kinds of seminars or workshops, and that was my suggestion as well, that as we roll out some marketing for this, to have him do a how to do business with DuPage County seminar with the disadvantaged business enterprise as well. So, yeah, that was my comment. Thank you so much.
Okay, Member Colbert.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I just want to thank the staff and everybody who was involved in this, because this has been a huge project for the last 5 years. And and I wanted to thank you, Madam Chair, for bringing this again. I know that it was, there was a lull there a little bit, so thank you for bringing this back. It's the beauty of it all is that, you know, when we passed the diversity inclusion imperative in 2019, and then we set up a race relations series through strategic planning, we were discovering what the needs were for different communities. And the beauty of this program is that this, you know, these economic opportunities not only provide benefits to disadvantaged businesses, women-owned and minority-owned businesses, but also to the county, and that's the beauty of it. I also want to thank this board, because every single member of this board has been so incredibly supportive from the beginning, and I want to appreciate that. I want to recognize that, and they continue to support. So I really appreciate every single board member. We are wonderful in DuPage County, so thank you.
Okay, Member Kajewski and then Member Eckhoff.
I think this is more for Colette. When you did the disparity study, when you looked at subcontractors, like you said, did you look at if they had to be minority certified or MB certified, WB certified, or they were actually owned by a women-owned firm or minority-owned firm but not certified?
We included non-certified firms. There aren't a lot of those out there, but we wanted to meet the legal standard in the Seventh Circuit, which is to cast a broad net. So we did include firms that were not certified.
Good. Construction engineering field, what we're doing is probably more of them are certified, but I do get regularly a number of calls where a general finds out on a set-aside or a goal that they already have a firm they're working with that's either women-owned or minority, but they haven't got certified. So they work with them and say, hey, go get certified. And I think we're going to find that a lot, and especially if we go outside construction and open up to more parts of the campus, so we'll find there's a number of firms out there that are either minority-owned or women-owned, but yet have not got certified. So where the education and choose DuPage, college DuPage, however, because when they go and ask for that application, whether it's City of Chicago or State of Illinois, and they look at it, and it seems overwhelming, and they kind of walk away from it, not understanding.
Yeah, that's true. At one point, our firm was certified in 17 states, so I feel people's pain about that. But there are a lot of resources out there, and let me just, since I got the floor for a second, take the opportunity to say how excited I am for DuPage about where you're going. Your team is fantastic. I've worked for over 200 agencies in my life, and I have rarely seen a team this committed, this dedicated, this smart, frankly, and on top of things. And when Greg Bedelov ran the tollway, he ran one of the best programs I've ever seen. So you all have a really good basis to do some things there, and I'm really excited for what I think you can accomplish.
Okay, Member Eckhoff.
Just have a couple of questions. There's been a lot of talk about this disparity study and the results of it when it came out. Are we miles apart from any kind of equity, or just small inches away? Or
Colette, do you want to handle that one?
Yeah, I was just trying to pull up your study here. Here it is, because I don't want to try to remember numbers, especially at this point in my life. But let me go to your executive summary here, which starts really on page 2. And you did have some pretty large disparities between availability and utilization. So if anybody happens to have the study handy, I'm looking at table 1-4 on page 7. Overall, the disparity ratio for minorities and women grouped together was about 41%. Well, anything less than 80% is considered a prima facie case of the operation of discrimination in your market. So, the DuPage County really did have some pretty low ratios. But I think with everything that you've heard today and the steps that are going to be put in place, you have B2G now, you've got data, you're going to start setting contract goals. That once you start doing that, you're going to see real changes in behavior, because that is in quite frankly strong contrast to the other agencies that are in your market area. We just finished the tollway study in the city of Chicago and Cook County and the state, and and all these other agencies, and everybody had very high utilization, but it's because they've had programs for years and they set goals. So I expect that you're going to make a lot of progress very
That's what I
fast.
was going to focus in on. I hope it's not a fact of discrimination here in DuPage County. I hope it's a lack of education and knowledge on behalf of the different people who are going to participate in these contracts. But we said that there's not supposed to be a quota for the county, but the individual contractor is supposed to go out and try and use good faith to bring these people on board. Who's going to determine whether or not there's been good faith?
The county. That's absolutely your determination, like every other element of bid evaluation.
The county board, or are we going to have staff, our staff person?
Grant, it's very detailed in the policy. If you can, I know we gave you a lot of information very quickly, but we're all available to answer lots of questions once you read through all of it. There's a whole section on how you would get a good faith exception. You can't just say, I contacted a couple subcontractors.
I'm not hoping that people get a good faith exception. I hope they make good faith compliance. But what I'm saying is I want there to be more of an objective standard for that than a subjective standard, because then all of a sudden, you know, we're hearing discrimination used here, then all of a sudden we start hearing discrimination later in the judgment of whoever is making that decision.
I think the way the policy was written, it's very objective, but I feel if you read it.
So our goal in this whole thing is contract parity, okay?
Yes.
So I know I'm a lot older than many of you in the room here, but I've been hearing about these type of arrangements for a long period of time. No, it wasn't the government. And my concern is that these programs, I know we hear from Colette that they're working, but I would like to see something in a couple of years to see if they're working, because they seem to be going on and on and on everywhere in Illinois, in Cook County. And the reason I want a goal is because, one, hey, if we did a good job, I want a pat on the back. On the other hand, if we're not reaching the goal, then there's something wrong and we need to fix it. And the fact that these type of programs, I think, have been going on for 20, 30 years in Illinois, indicates to me that maybe there's a better way to get this done.
We are taking a different approach than the state of Illinois. Ours will sunset. So we have a definite end to ours. Our program is over in 6 years. In 5 years, we're going to do another disparity study. And if it shows a disparity, then the county board at that time can go forward with a program. But this program will not go on indefinitely. And as Anthony talked about too, this group will report to the county board with B2G now and let you know where we're at.
Don't wait for 5 or 6 years, because some of us
can do
may
it
not
quarterly,
be here.
whatever.
We are planning to come here as we launch this program, as we do education, as we start, we are going to give this board regular updates, because you need to know how it's working, how it's not working. To Mr. Isaiah's standpoint, do we need more people? So there will be regular updates.
Good luck.
Okay. Thank you very much for that. It's great work. Okay. This evening, I am pleased to report that as a part of the omnibus procurement bill approved by the General Assembly just hours ago, lawmakers approved new language that provides the highest level of clarity regarding the Illinois competitive bidding and budget transfer statutes as it relates to countywide elected officials. The new language codifies the current law as it applies to counties and county elected officials, including those with internal control of their offices. The newly approved language in the Illinois Counties Code states, in summary, any purchase of services, materials, equipment, or supplies by a county or an elected official, including those with internal control over their offices, in excess of $30,000 other than professional services must be competitively bid. Additionally, the amended statute now also states, in summary, that in counties with populations of fewer than 2 million, after the county budget is adopted, transfers of appropriations affecting personnel and capital may only be made with a vote of 2/3 of the board. The amendment further states that this statute applies to all elected officials, including those with internal control of their office. It is my hope that this measure leaves no doubt as to the intent of the General Assembly and the laws that govern the operations of elected officials' offices. I have never viewed this issue with the clerk's office as a dispute. The way I see it in DuPage County, we value transparency. We are guided by the principle of fiscal responsibility. The only way to build trust with taxpayers is to communicate by our words and our actions that we take expenditures seriously, and that in every situation we strive to deliver the best value for the lowest price. It's what our taxpayers expect and deserve. The effective date on the omnibus procurement legislation is January 1st. Knowing the clear intent of our lawmakers and our legislative leaders, I ask and expect the clerk and her staff to adhere to the statutes and work productively on behalf of the residents of DuPage County. And now we can get back to the work of the people. Okay, on to the consent agenda. I seek a motion to approve the consent agenda items. 24-16-13, DuPage County Board Minutes, regular meeting, Tuesday, May 14th, 2024. 24-15-14-5-10, 2024, pay list. 24-15-16, 5-10, 2024, auto debit pay list. 24-15-38, 5-14, 2024, pay list. 24-15-84, 5-17, 2024, pay list. 24-15-91, 5-17, 2024, auto debit. 24-16-00, 5-21, 24, pay list. 24-16-15, 5-22, 2024, polling place pay list. 24-15-15, 5-13, 2024, IDOR wire transfer. 24-15-19, County Clerk's Monthly Report of Receipts and Disbursements, April 2024. 24-15-32, Treasurer's Monthly Report of Investments and Deposits, April 2024. 24-15-96, change orders to various contracts as specified in the packet. All in favor? Aye. Okay, and on to Finance and Member Chaplain.
Thank you again, Madam Chair. So just a brief update of Finance Committee. So two things today in Finance Committee that we discussed and are moving forward. First, thanks to the work of the Strategic Plan Committee and their contract with, let me get the name of the company, who helped out with our strategic plan, Barry Dunn. Part of their contract included our budget survey. So the Finance Committee agreed to put that out. We're going to try to have one or two questions added regarding food insecurity, and we were going to check to see if there was, I thought mental health was addressed in it, but we're going to double check. If that's not, we'll get that in there hopefully as well. And that'll be go out middle, early June. And then the second item, after hearing from staff, it was a hardship for our employees to book reservations for travel. They had to put it on their own credit cards. A lot of people was creating a hardship. And staff looked into options for us, and we have decided to go with a travel agency. So that'll at least take care of part of the issue. So I think it'll be a positive mood, and that'll be coming up at the next Finance Committee for us to take a formal vote on. So those were two important things that came out of Finance today. So with that, I will move on FIR 8824, additional appropriation for the Illinois State Opioid Response Criminal Justice Medication Assistance Treatment Integration Grant, mutual memo of understanding for $30,000 with the Sheriff's Department, an increase from 75 to 105 $30,000 increase with the Sheriff's Department.
It's been moved and seconded. Roll call, please.
Chaplin.
Aye.
Childress. Covert.
Aye.
Desart. Eckhoff. Evans. Galassi. Garcia. Guston. Krajewski. LaPlante. Ozog. Rutledge. Schwarzy. Tornatore. Yu.
Aye.
Zay. And Cahill.
Member Chaplin.
Thank you. I move approval of FIR 8924, acceptance and appropriation of additional funding for the Illinois Department of Human Services Supportive Housing Grant Intergovernmental Agreement from $154,180 to $167,996, an increase of $13,816 community services.
Leave is granted. Member Chaplin.
Thank you. I move approval of FIR 9024, resolution authorizing the addition of one full-time headcount to the staff of the Building and Zoning Department for the position of Zoning Administration Coordinator.
Leave is granted. Member Chaplin.
Thank you. I move approval of FIR 9124, resolution to approve a payment to Downers Grove Area Fish in the amount of $50,000 for funding approved under the Infrastructure Investment Grant Program, ARPA item.
Leave is granted. Member Chaplin.
Thank you. I move approval of FIR 9224, budget transfers 528-2024, various companies and accounting units.
Leave is granted. Member Chaplin.
Thank you. And finally, I move approval of FIP 1624, recommendation for the approval of a contract purchase order issued to Alliant Insurance Services to provide commercial insurance brokerage services to the county for the Finance Department for the period of June 1st, 2024 through May 31st, 2027, for a contract total not to exceed $234,000.
Leave is granted. Thank you, Member Chaplin.
Thank you, Madam Chair.
Okay, Animal Services and Member Krajewski.
Thank you, Member Chair. No report.
Okay, and Development, Member Tornatore is not here, so Member Colbert will give the report.
Oh, I need to step out on this.
Oh,
vote.
I'm sorry. Okay, who's giving the report?
I'm Vice
Oh,
Chair.
I'm sorry. Okay.
That's okay.
Member Rutledge for the report. Thank you.
Thank you, Chair. I move on DCO 33-24, an ordinance to
Second.
amend Chapter 3, alcoholic liquor of the DuPage County Code.
Okay, it's been moved and seconded. Roll call, please.
Aye.
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 Okay, Member Rutledge.
Thank you. Next, I'll make a motion for DCO 34-24, an ordinance to amend Chapter 4 of the DuPage County Code.
Leave is granted. Thank you, Member Rutledge. Okay, Economic Development and Member LaPlante.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I move to approve item 12A EDCO 1-24, increase purchase order 6457-1 serve issued to Turning Point Autism Foundation in the amount of $139,441, a 156.43% increase for a new contract amount of $228,582 and extend the contract through May 31st, 2025. This will allow the vendor to successfully continue serving youth in DuPage County with Workforce Innovation and Opportunity Grant funding. This is a workforce development initiative.
It's been moved and seconded. Roll call, please.
LaPlante.
Aye.
Ozog. Rutledge. Schwarzy. Tornatore. Yu.
Aye.
Zay. Cahill. Chaplin. Childress. Covert.
Aye.
Desart. Eckhoff. Evans. Galassi. Garcia. Guston. And Krajewski.
Okay, Member LaPlante.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I move to approve item 12B ED-CO-2224, increase purchase order 6027-1 serve issued to Parents Alliance Employment Project in the amount of $123,925, a 50% increase for a new contract amount of $371,775, and extend the contract through September 30th, 2025 to continue to successfully serve in-school youth in DuPage County.
Leave is granted. Member LaPlante.
Thank you very much. Moving on to item 12C, I move to approve ED-CO-324, increase purchase order 6028-1 serve issued to Parents Alliance Employment Project in the amount of $434,123, a 68.34% increase, for a new contract amount of $1,069,409. And extend the contract through September 30th, 2025 to continue to successfully serve out-of-school youth in DuPage County.
Okay, we'll need a roll call, please.
Patty.
LaPlante.
Aye.
Ozog. Rutledge. Schwarzy. Tornatori. You.
Aye.
Zay. Cahill. Chaplin.
Aye.
Childress. Covert.
Aye.
Desart. Eckhoff. Evans.
Aye.
Galassi. Garcia.
Aye.
Guston. And Krajewski.
Okay, thank you, Member LaPlante.
You're welcome.
On to environmental, and I'd just like to say, Member Rutledge, thank you so much for bringing that very important and thought-provoking presentation on single-use plastic.
Indeed. I'll let that stand tonight, so
Okay.
thank you, no report.
Okay, all right, then we'll move on to Human Services and Member Schwarzy.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I do have a report, some information I need to share with this board. First of all, regarding our pantry infrastructure grant round 2, the portal closed on that on May 15th. We received $1.2 million in grant requests for this round 2. If you recall, we originally gave $1 million, close to $1 million in round 1. We chose to open round 2 with the amount of $500,000. So in round 2, we received 16 new requests from 12 new organizations in the amount of $557,000. We also received 30 new grant requests from 14 organizations who previously received round 1 grants in the amount of $652,000. We spoke about this at length in our committee meeting Tuesday, and we had a consensus that the Human Services Committee, we chose to give out the grants to those entities who have not received anything as yet. So those entities that were making requests for the first time in the amount of $557,000. We do need finance to come back and go through all the applications and make sure what qualifies, what doesn't qualify, and at that point, we may have to prioritize the $500,000. We will be considering revisiting the rest of those once staff determines the status of any unspent or unused ARPA funds. At that point, we will have the conversation, as probably everyone in here will have some conversation on what they want to use that money for. We have approximately $600,000 that is undesignated right now. With food being such a critical issue, I hate to just turn that over. People still need to eat, so we're holding on to that at this time. So more information coming. I just wanted to update everybody on that. You all received a flyer from Community Services. The Senior Resource Fair is taking place on June 14th. It's the first one that the county has held since prior to COVID. There'll be approximately 30 senior service organizations in attendance. So please, you're welcome to join us. And thank you to Community Services for putting that on. And good news today, we received an email from the DuPage Care Center. They did receive permission for occupancy in the newly remodeled 4 North floor from IDPH. So the goal will be to have the 3 North residents move into their new 4 North residence sometime over the next 3 weeks. So that's all I have. Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you very much. Okay, on to Judicial and Public Safety and Member Evans.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I'd like to move on JPS CO-4-24, recommendation for the approval of an amendment to purchase order 5757-1 serve for a contract issued to Flock Group Inc. for the purchase of Flock Falcon cameras to increase the contract in the amount of $17,500, resulting in amended contract total amount not to exceed $280,000.
It has been moved and seconded. Roll call, please.
Evans.
Aye.
Galassi. Garcia. Guston. Krajewski. LaPlante. Ozog. Rutledge. Schwarzy. Tornatori. You.
Aye.
Zay. Cahill. Chaplin.
Aye.
Childress. Covert.
Aye.
Desart. And Eckhoff.
Member Evans.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Next, I'd like to move on JPSP-16-24, recommendation for the approval of a contract to Justice Text, Inc. for the purchase of audiovisual evidence management software licenses for the Public Defender's Office for the period of July 1st, 2024 through June 30th, 2025 for an amount not to exceed $45,000.
Leave is granted. Thank you, Member Evans. Okay, Legislative and Member Desart.
Thank you, Madam Chair. In Springfield, the Illinois Senate approved a $53.1 million balanced budget on Sunday with $75 million in tax increases. The Senate gave themselves and House members a 5% pay increase. Senate President Don Harmon says the budget prioritizes education, safety, and economic growth. He says this budget builds on 5 years of historic fiscal progress with balanced budgets, 9 credit rating upgrades, the elimination of bill backlog, and more. House members left Springfield on Saturday, but they returned today to vote on that budget before it can hit the governor's desk. They have to approve the budget as is, since the Senate does not plan to return to Springfield until November. The budget includes eliminating the 1% state grocery tax on January 1st, 2026. These tax dollars have traditionally gone to local governments. I talked to Jeff Martinowitz earlier today, and he thinks DuPage County might lose not a lot of money, between $100,000 and $500,000, and there is talk for even non-home rule entities like DuPage County to be able to make that up by offering a countywide tax. Budget highlights for me include a $600 million budget for local road projects, $290 million to prevent homelessness, $180 million for the migrant response, $350 million toward education, and $14 million for early childhood programs. And as a save the date for you, the Legislative Committee will meet after County Board on June 11th. Our Springfield lobbyists will join us to break down what happened, what didn't happen during the spring session. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Member Desart. And Public Works and Member Garcia.
Thank you, Chair Conroy. In lieu of a committee update, I'm going to not give my hour-long committee update that I was planning due to the hour of the night. I'm going to make a motion to approve FMP 002324, recommendation for the approval of a contract to Weatherproofing Technologies, Inc. for annual roof inspection, maintenance, and minor repair as needed for campus roofs for facilities management for the period of May 29th, 2024 through October 31st, 2026 for a total contract amount not to exceed $289,469.22.
It has been moved and seconded. Roll call, please.
Garcia.
Aye.
Guston. Krajewski. LaPlante. Ozog. Rutledge. Schwarzy. Tornatori. You.
Aye.
Zay. Cahill. Chaplin. Childress. Covert.
Aye.
Desart. Eckhoff. Evans. And Galassi.
Okay, Member Garcia.
I make a motion to approve FMP 002424, recommendation for the approval of a contract to Clark Dietz, Inc. to provide professional engineering design services for the installation of new photovoltaic systems at the 421 and 501 buildings and on-call engineering and design services for the county campus for facilities management for the period of May 28th, 2024 through November 30th, 2025 for a total contract amount not to exceed $68,400.
Leave is granted. Thank you, Member Garcia, and I appreciate the first row choir. Stormwater and Member Zay.
No report.
Okay, Transportation and Member Ozog. Oh, Technology, Member you.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I have no update either.
Okay, sorry about that. Transportation, Member Ozog.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Our first item, I move to request the release of the capital improvement plan. Our Chief Transportation Planner, John Loper, presented this last week at our meeting, and Bill Edson is going to speak for a very brief moment about the report. And if you have any further questions, Bill, myself, John, happy to take any questions. Maybe even not tonight.
Thank you very much.
Go ahead, Bill. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Member Ozog and Madam Chair. The Division of Transportation is ready to release our annual update to our 5-year capital improvement plan. I'm not going to go over the entire document with you. It is in your packet. But I will tell you, it represents 98 projects totaling $327 million of work through fiscal year 28, covering safety, mobility, operations, and maintenance of our county highways and our trail system. So with your approval of this agenda item tonight, we'll be releasing the update on our website for public viewing.
Okay, did we have a motion? Does anybody have a question? Okay.
Thank you, Bill.
Okay, it's been moved and seconded. Roll call, please.
Ozog.
Yes.
Rutledge. Shorzy. Tornatore. You.
Aye.
Zay. Cahill. Chaplin.
Aye.
Childress. Covert. Desart. Eckhoff. Evans. Galassi. Garcia. Guston. Krajewski. And LaPlante.
Okay, Member Ozog.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I'd like you to time how fast I can go through these.
Okay.
I move for approval of DTR 002124, recommendation for the approval of a contract to Morton Salt Incorporated to furnish and deliver bulk rock salt as needed for the Division of Transportation for the period June 1st, 2024 through May 31st, 2025 for their contract total amount of $1,108,500 per lowest responsible bid.
Leave is granted. Member Ozog.
Okay, thank you. I move for approval of DTR 002224, intergovernmental agreement between the County of DuPage and York Township to extend roads resurfacing beyond county right-of-way on multiple side streets along Myers Road within the township, county to be reimbursed $6,333.53.
Leave is granted. Member Ozog.
I move for approval of DTR 002324, resolution authorizing the DuPage County Chair to execute a letter of understanding between the County of DuPage and the Illinois Department of Transportation for the maintenance responsibilities for the DuPage County equipment on IDOT-owned traffic signals at 31st Street and Illinois Route 83 North and South ramps.
Leave is granted. Member Ozog.
Thank you. I move for approval of DTP 003724, recommendation for the approval of a contract to Traffic Control Corporation for annual maintenance and support services for the Division of Transportation's Centrax ATMS software system for the period July 1st, 2024 through June 30th, 2025 for a contract total not to exceed $36,052, not suitable for competitive bids, sole source.
Leave is granted. Member Ozog.
Thank you. I move for approval of DTP 003824, recommendation for the approval of a contract to Collins Engineers Incorporated to provide professional bridge inspection services for various locations upon request for the period May 28th, 2024 through May 31st, 2026 for a contract total amount of $250,000, professional services vetted through a qualification-based selection process.
Leave is granted. Thank you, Member Ozog.
Thank you, Madam Chair.
Okay, and we'll move on to old business. Do members have anything in old business? Okay, all right. Member Krajewski and then Member Desart.
Thank you. Thank Chairwoman for the report Chairwoman's report this morning, or this morning, I guess we're evening today. But regarding the state and the rules that were passed, and there's reasons the state has these rules, and it's, to have transparency to make government efficient. I pulled out, I asked Nick to send me last week, 2016 audit that was done by our auditor. But looking at those quarterly audit reports, there was a notice that the gambling revenue from off-track betting didn't appear to be what it usually was. So an in-depth audit was done, and they found that one of the OTBs wasn't paying the county $300,000, so we're able to go collect that. But they also give recommendations in there. There was a recommendation by the auditor to take the IRB, which is the gaming reports, periodically review them, compare them to revenue from the treasurer's office. I do want to thank Auditor White for coming in last week, but the importance of those quarterly audits, 3.5 years, had he done those audits, even if they were a little bit late, he would have known that revenues or expected revenues would have found out our cannabis tax was not being collected. So there's an importance to the reasons why the state requires you to do things. Nick and I did meet with Auditor White last week. I think Member LaPlante had brought up the issue with the report he was going to be issuing regarding the audit he was going to do. He told Nick and I that the report is in draft form, but we'll have it in 2 weeks. And again, in those reports, like there was in this one and several of the ones that I've seen in my 14 years, the auditor will give recommendations of how you can, do things better. It had nothing to do, I know he stated something about the election was over. It had nothing to do with elections. It's, how did it happen? Why did it happen? And what things can you put in place to make sure it doesn't happen again? He did tell Nick and I that again, it's in draft form. The conclusion that's going to come is that most likely the clerk didn't mail it out. That's the conclusion that's going to come. But again, he'll probably have some recommendations in there about how you can make sure it gets done correctly in the future. And that's why a lot of these, if you've read them over the years, and we don't get as many, but we still get them. There was one that Water White gave us a few years ago regarding retention payments that were done correctly, and went and followed it all the way through and figured out what the problems were in HR and how to correct it so it doesn't happen in the future. And that's what those things are very helpful for the board to make sure things are in place to catch those things. So again, hopefully he'll get us our reports. Look forward to seeing his report that's going to come in 2 weeks with the recommendations that how we can make sure this doesn't happen again.
Member Dessart.
Thank you. You know, I've been on this board for 5.5 years, and based on constituent questions, I've been trying to get a night meeting for 5.5 years. And so I want to thank this board for giving me a whirl tonight, but especially I want to thank the staff and for everybody who came out tonight to come to this evening meeting. The place was packed earlier, so I'm not willing to take an end zone happy dance yet, but I think it was a pretty good idea. And I just wanted to thank staff, the members, and our constituents for coming out on a Tuesday night. Thank you.
Okay. All right. Member Guston.
Thank you, Madam Chair. And I do want to tail upon Committee Member Krajewski. I'm wondering also, we did have our legal staff come to one of our previous meetings with respect to what the county board could do to make sure that things like this don't happen, and if there's a possibility of some civil action or something along those lines to make sure that everything is accounted for, because we're responsible to the residents, we're responsible to taxpayers, as you well know, and you did a great job connecting with Springfield and getting that legislation to go through. So I think that's going to be very, very helpful, but we need to stay on top of it because we really need to make sure that this gets done. It's been a long time coming, and sometimes it takes people longer to learn the lesson and abide by it. So maybe that's just it in this case, and we'll get more conformity from our clerk. I'm hopeful of that, but if we don't, we need to make sure that we have accountability, and what's our next step on that accountability level. Thank you.
Okay, new business. Member Eckhoff.
I just wanted to remind you what I said before the meeting tonight. Ms. Galassi and I were walking in together, and we noticed that someone parked in your parking spot. So we've got the make, model, and drives and license plate number of that car. So we can go. Yeah, we thought we did. She did too, but somebody parked in her spot. So we'll go get them. You just identify them.
Thank you. I appreciate you having my back, Member Eckhoff. Okay, so I am informed that we do not have matters before us requiring executive session. Okay, I'll take a motion to adjourn the meeting. Okay, all in favor? Okay, this meeting is adjourned until Tuesday, June 11th, 2024 at 10 a.m. Good night, all.